How many of these stories are tucked away in dusty old photo albums in someone's garage? I never realized how much it probably meant to him. Staying connected to the community was really important. Have you ever seen a photo that just completely destroyed you? A family picture, maybe in an album, or something a relative wanted to show you, and you thought it would just be like run-of-the-mill picture, look at it, say some nice words, and when you looked at it, it just made you reevaluate. Maybe it filled you with regret, which is what happened to me. And that's the unsettling terrain that I am navigating with you today. Hi, I'm Danielle Romero, and on my channel, I've been researching, in the beginning, my family story, and been kind of taking a step back and trying to understand the complexity of American identity and what makes somebody finally become an American. So let me tell you about the picture that just sent me plummeting. Here's what happened. So I'm going through this beautiful book. Maybe you have one of these or you've seen them. They're called Images of America. And mine, I have a couple of these. And this one is called Troy's Little Italy. Troy is a city off the Hudson River. The Hudson River connects down to New York City. And it runs vertical through New York State. And these are amazing books. They're put together by, different people. Every book has a different author, but it's kind of like a snapshot into a special period of history for towns and cities. I was born in Troy, New York, and I'm seeing, buildings that I recognize and things like that. And then suddenly I see not one, but two photographs of my grandfather, my dad's dad, Dominic. The first was a picture of him with the Troy Boys Club marching band. He's in this picture as a little boy. And the second was a group photo. Here's my grandpa right here. When he was on military leave in the summer of 1944, my grandpa Dom, he dropped out of high school when he was 17 years old to enlist in the Navy. These photographs literally took my breath away when I was looking at this book. We all have our family narratives and the stories that we think we know about our families, the family members that we think we understand. How many times did I sit across from my grandpa Dom when he would come drop by and visit, because he lived, pretty close by all throughout my childhood. And how many times did I ask him about his family history? Maybe one time. Maybe one time. He passed away when I was about 21 years old. So I had a lot of time to ask, and I didn't. It's one of those moments when you realize that your family members are living, walking, talking history books to your past. And I think a lot of times we just don't recognize it until it's too late. And it wasn't just about my family, but the gears really started turning for me when I saw that picture of my grandpa with his military buddies, the other Italian American kids that had enrolled and were on leave coming back to Troy, New York. His story isn't just a standalone tale. None of our family stories are happening in a vacuum just to us. We're all part of a chapter in a much larger story. And, this book shows, every Italian American in this book is a part of a community of Italian Americans who contributed to their neighborhood, who made a difference for their future descendants like me. And, so I was thinking about Troy and my family's connections there. And when I was a little girl, when I was in college, which seems really far away now, but when I was in college, my grandpa would often attend dinners at the Italian Community Center in Troy. These are always a big deal. He would put on a special sweater, and he would parade me around to his friends, who I'm assuming a lot of them are probably some of the guys that I saw in this picture. And at the time, I just looked at it as, this is something important to my grandpa, so I'm gonna come and I'll get a great meal after a long day of classes. And I never realized how much it probably meant to him to have me go there with him. And it wasn't just a meal for him. To me, it was just a meal. But to him, looking back now as an adult, I could see that it was a touchstone to our family history, our culture, our community, and a way of life that he wanted to pass down to me. Even though he didn't say it explicitly, looking at it now, I can see it. He was letting me know that staying connected to the community was really important. It was important not only for the individual one-to-one relationships that we have with people, but for preserving a way of being here in America while at the same time becoming American, retaining this tie to community and culture. So let's zoom out for a second. Troy, New York is just one little Italy of many, and one city of many that have these vibrant neighborhood histories of immigrants who came over and kind of made their way here. Think about it. Everywhere across the United States, cities have these little pockets, these little areas that are kind of just known for being like, this is a Mexican neighborhood, or a lot of Greek immigrants had settled here and they're still here, or whatever. I know in Nashville, where I am, there's a couple areas that I think were probably the initial places of settlement for some groups. And even though now it's a lot more assimilated, there's still a flavor of those cultures in those spots. And the question that keeps bouncing around in my head is, how many untold stories are there? How many community heroes, how many unsung war veterans, or young prodigies that made great gains for their community? How many of these stories are tucked away in dusty old photo albums in someone's garage, or lying forgotten in some local archive somewhere? What pieces of American history, our history, have we been overlooking but we have access to? And how many of these histories are actually just people that we know staring us right in the face, people we see every day, but we have never thought to ask their story? When I looked at these pictures of my grandpa, I felt really small. I think in a good way. When you realize that whatever your backgrounds may be, and I have many, but when I'm thinking about in particular my Italian heritage, how many people have gone before me to make it possible for me to even be here today, doing what I'm doing. And we're all part of a really long line of ancestors who, for good or for bad, made the choices that they made that brought us to today, where we get to make our own choices. And then I really felt really small there, but you know what else? I felt incredibly proud when I saw these pictures as well, because our lives, as mundane as they can seem sometimes, are still connected to that thread of ancestors. I think sometimes we imagine that we're kind of like the last stop on the line in the family tree and everybody else is an ancestor. And that's not the case. If the world keeps going, which I'm hoping that it will, at some point I'm going to be somebody's ancestor. And it's incredible to realize how connected we all are. So the next time you stumble across an old photograph, hear a family story that's been told 1,000 times, take a moment to really listen or look closely. Dive deeper, because you never know what hidden corner of American history you might uncover. Because for me, I'm finding that the story is always bigger, richer, and far more complex than it looks on the surface. And with that, I want to let you know that I am starting a brand new project here in Nashville, where I live. I'm producing a series here of in-person interviews called Becoming American. And I'm interviewing some influential folks here in Nashville from all spheres, political, culinary, media, musicians, just all kinds of people that I'm just so incredibly thankful they said yes to sitting down with me. And I'm going to give them space to share their family story. For most of us, most of our family story is one of immigrants. And I am just really looking forward to sharing some more stories. And at the end of the day, I'm hoping that we'll come away from this series and this channel recognizing that a good story shows us how much more in common we have with each other than we may have thought before. And as Americans, and even to some of my friends around the world who are watching, I really hope that we can realize that we are so connected on this journey.